What's going on, everybody? Time to put all that research from the last couple of weeks to work. Now that we know all about this free agency class, we need to figure out who we actually want the Seahawks to go after. And I'm going to go ahead and start with the Tier 1 free agents, also known as star level free agents. We're going to list out my personal top 10 star level free agents I would most like the team to target. So these are the really expensive guys. These are the big ticket items. These are the ones that could potentially swing the balance of power in the NFL, depending on where they go. Now, we didn't have a ton of these guys. You wouldn't expect a lot of these guys to hit free agency. So we're going to end up talking about a decent chunk of the star class in this video just by talking about the top 10 guys. And also understand that I'm personally not a big fan of signing star level free agents most of the time. So a lot of these guys, even the guys that I talk about, there is going to be some trepidation on my part. But it might be necessary in this particular situation to go out and get one of these free agents. And there are some logical fits in here. So let's go ahead and get started with number 10. We're going to count our way down all the way to number 1. And then the next video, we move on to the next tier. Star level free agent number 10 for me is Malcolm Koonce of the Las Vegas Raiders. This guy was headed towards somewhere really special, and then things got derailed, not totally his fault, in 2024. Malcolm Koonce was a player of little note over the first 2 years of his career, 2021 and 2022, and then in 2023, he broke out as an edge rusher for the Raiders. 8 sacks, 43 tackles, 3 forced fumbles, played every game. It looked like he was on his way to becoming one of the best young edges in football. And then 2024, he doesn't get on the field once. He's injured, misses the whole season. And now we have to bring down our expectations a little bit. But we also have to acknowledge that the stuff that we really liked from him in 2023 that we all saw is still there. It just might need an extra bit of time to come out. He's going to turn 27 in June. Last season he played, PFF thought he was great, 81.3 grade overall. That's top 25 for edge rushers. And you could get him at a little bit of, and I know this is going to be a funny word to use, discount. 2 years, $40 million for Malcolm Koonce. Yes, it seems like a lot for a guy who missed the entirety of 2024, but let's say he played in 2024 and had, say, 11 sacks. He would be getting more than 2 years, $40 million. So there are some concerns. There are some things to be not so in love with here, but Malcolm Koonce would be my 10th best star tier free agent for the Seattle Seahawks to pursue this offseason. Number 9 on my list of star tier free agents the Seahawks should go after is Carlton Davis. And this one only really makes sense if and only if Woolen gets traded this offseason. If he doesn't, then I don't think there's room for a Carlton Davis. It just doesn't make much sense. And I'll concede that even if you trade Woolen, you might want to go with a younger player, a cheaper player, a rookie, a drafted player. I can understand there's probably a little more appeal there. But if you want to go get that veteran outside corner to pair with Witherspoon, Carlton Davis would be one of my top options. Former second-round pick. He's been in the league for quite a while now. He won a Super Bowl with Tampa Bay, had a real nice career there, was very productive, was generally very good. Went to Detroit last year, helped them win 15 games, even if he ultimately wasn't able to complete the entire season. Still a very effective outside corner, still very productive, and PFF continues to think very highly of him, 74.5, good in run defense and coverage. Obviously, both of those things are going to be very important, and the cost on him is fairly reasonable for what should be a top-level corner. If Spotrac is right, 3 years, $41.3 million seems pretty fair to me. It's a multi-year deal, so you can spread the money around, and you should have him for the remainder of his prime because he just turned 28 about 2 months ago. So my number 9 pick would be Carlton Davis. Star tier free agent number 8 that I would like the Seahawks to go after is our old friend DJ Reid. The same qualifiers as for Carlton Davis apply. I don't want to go after this guy if we don't trade Reek Woolen. And even if we do trade Woolen, I don't know if this is the route we want to go. But if the team, if the coaches, if the front office decide a veteran cornerback should be acquired to start across from Witherspoon because they don't know about their depth and they want something they can be confident in, I think DJ Reid would be great. Still relatively young, only 28 years old, going to turn 29 in November, has been playing some great, scrappy, tough football for the New York Jets the last 3 years. Considered to be one of the best number 2 corners in the league to Sauce Gardner over the last couple of years. I think a reunion with DJ Reid would be a lot of fun. I don't know if it's the best expenditure of resources, but if they decide to go this route in this specific timeline where they want an expensive veteran corner, I think DJ Reid would be one of the best options. PFF has been generally very effusive in their praise of DJ Reid. Last year was no exception. And you get a 4-year deal on him according to Spotrac, which is intimidating, but it's also great because you can push a lot of that money out into future years, and the cap hit in 2025 would be minimal. 4 years, $58.6 million. A lot of money, but DJ Reid is my number 8 pick. My number 7 pick for a high-profile star-level free agent for the Seahawks to go after is Justin Reid, safety from the Chiefs. And again, there is a pretty clear caveat here. As of right now, the Seahawks don't really need a safety, and Justin Reid would just be making a lot of money to make not that big of an impact. But Kobe Bryant is in the last year of his contract, and if the Seahawks decide they don't want to commit to him long-term, or they just want to be done with him now because they think they need something better at that position, or maybe they want to push Kobe Bryant into a third safety role and get an expensive, proven veteran to man that other starting safety spot, Justin Reid would definitely be one of my picks for that. Had a very good career for the Houston Texans and now the Kansas City Chiefs. Helped that defense be as good as it's been the last 3 years to allow them to win 2 Super Bowls and go to another. PFF thought he played great last year, 76.9. And according to Spotrac, you could get him for about 3 years, $51.2 million. So you're paying a premium, but you're getting somebody that you know is very good and will leave you with really nothing to worry about at the safety spot for at least 2 more years. So I understand that there's some stuff here that people aren't going to be in love with because of the recent history of the Seahawks. But if this is the route we go, Justin Reid would be my number 7. My number 6 pick for a star-level free agent for the Seahawks to go after would be Will Fries of the Indianapolis Colts. A right guard, I've said it before and I'll say it again, I'm not necessarily in love with the idea of making a massive expenditure at the right guard spot, but it certainly would remove a lot of stress and concern from this team this offseason to do it. So I cannot deny the clear value there. Will Fries missed most of last season. He played 5 games, but he was a 17-game starter the year before, played quite well, has a very positive reputation in the league right now. The little bit that he did play last year, he was considered to be one of the best in the league, 4th among 135 guards, and Spotrac estimates his next contract at 4 years, $56.5 million, so $14.1 million a year, and your right guard spot should be taken care of for the foreseeable future. It allows you to move a guy like a Christian Haynes to another position. It allows you to accept that Anthony Bradford is just going to be your backup and nothing more. And for those reasons, despite my reservations, the clear upgrade that would be made at the right guard spot with Will Fries over what we have makes him my number 6 selection. My number 5 star-level free agent the Seahawks should consider targeting is Zack Baun, linebacker from the Philadelphia Eagles. And As with most of the other players we talk about here, there are some caveats. If you re-sign Ernest Jones, it doesn't really make much sense to spend big money on any linebacker, even one as good as Zack Baun. But if Ernest Jones were to walk, then Zack Baun becomes an interesting target. I will admit that I'm a little bit suspicious that this player, who hadn't really done that much before 2024, suddenly became one of the best linebackers in football, getting to play with players like Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Milton Williams, so on and so on and so on. Being part of one of the best defenses in football can make a lot of players look better than they are. But he didn't just look good, he looked phenomenal. He legitimately looked like the best linebacker out there, and I cannot deny the possibility that he's simply a late bloomer and wasn't allowed to show what he could do in New Orleans, surrounded by much lesser talent. PFF absolutely adores him. They thought he was one of the best players in football last year, period. Second best graded linebacker in all the NFL. And because of the questions concerning his consistency past one season, it would be a reasonable cost. 2 years, $19.5 million, $9.7 million per year. I would take that shot if I needed to, and that makes him my number 5 option for top-level free agents. My number 4 pick for a star-level free agent for the Seahawks to go after is Khalil Mack. And this one is hard to justify logistically. This one is hard to make work, but I love the idea of how he would bring this defense together so much. I still think it's one of the best things we could do if we decide to go this route. Khalil Mack, even though he just turned 34 a couple days ago, is still playing at an elite level. He is still considered to be one of the best all-around edge rushers in football. Elite against the run. Is a really good pass rusher. Obviously, he may never get back to what he was in 2023 when he had 17 sacks, but still a phenomenal player that would fit in beautifully in Seattle's edge rusher rotation. Last year, he had an over 90 PFF grade on 600 plus snaps. If he comes to Seattle and we could find a way to get that down to 500 snaps, I believe he could maintain his elite efficiency from snap to snap and continue to be an extremely valuable player. He would allow us to really reduce the load on players like Derek Hall in run situations and basically allow the Seahawks absolute freedom to line up really well for any situation, run down or pass down. Now, the money is going to be hard to make work if Spotrac is right here. 3 years, $70.9 million is a lot of money for a rotational edge. That's the kind of money that you should be paying an edge that plays a vast majority of the game. But if they can find a way to make the money work, I think Khalil Mack could benefit tremendously from being part of a tighter rotation, and he is my number 4 pick for expensive star-level Seahawk free agent target. My number 3 pick here is Jevon Holland, and once again, this is one that doesn't really work unless the team is going to go in a very particular direction. This team needs to either decide they don't want Kobe Bryant anymore, or they want to relegate Kobe Bryant to a third safety role because they don't think he's quite good enough for what it is they're trying to do. If they decide to go that way, Jevon Holland is probably my favorite veteran safety they could go after if they want somebody who is really going to be able to deliver elite level results. Jevon Holland, as of this video recording, is only 24 years old. He's going to turn 25 in early March. So his best football should be ahead of him by leaps and bounds. And he's already shown the ability to play at a pretty high level in his career. Been basically a full-time starter for the Dolphins over the last 4 years. He has missed a little bit of time due to injuries over the last couple of seasons, but nothing too critical. PFF was relatively complimentary of his 2024. They did like some of his previous seasons a lot more. But what you're really doing with Jevon Holland is betting on him growing as a player as we go into 2025 and beyond because of how young he is and how talented he is. So the money you would have to spend on him is substantial. 4 years, $60.2 million according to Spotrac, but it's actually a little bit less than some of the other top-level safeties, and they don't have the upside of Holland because they're all a little bit older. Holland being only 24, 25 years old, could grow into being one of the best safeties in the league very easily. So for that reason, he is my number 3 option for this video. My number 2 option here would be Robert Spillane, and this would be another one where it only makes sense if a player leaves, in this case Ernest Jones. If Ernest Jones is re-signed, there's really not much to talk about here. But if Jones goes, my favorite veteran option to replace him would probably be Robert Spillane. This guy has been playing on a Raiders team that doesn't have a lot of talent defensively for the past couple of years, and he's been really good. He's been really valuable. He's put up big numbers. He's been a takeaway guy in coverage, which is not very common for a linebacker. He was a pretty decent player for the Steelers for a few years before he found full-time star success in Vegas. And I think that unlike some of the other linebacker options you could look at, he's proven that he doesn't need a perfect situation to play well. He can play well without having everything go great around him. So, relatively young, just turned 29 a couple of months ago. So age isn't a big problem yet, especially with the low miles on him. PFF thought he was well above average last year. He was ranked higher the previous year, which is interesting because he probably had less talent that year around him. And Spotrac thinks he's going to get 2 years, 20.8 million. So that's 10.4 million a year. That would be significantly less than what Ernest Jones is probably going to get. And you could make an argument you could get equivalent things out of him. So Robert Spillane is my number 2 option for an expensive free agent, a star level free agent for the Seahawks. Number 1 in this category is Trey Smith, the right guard from the Kansas City Chiefs. And don't get me wrong, I do have a couple of reservations here. I'm suspicious of somebody who excelled in the Kansas City Chiefs offense over the last few years. He's only working with Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and other great offensive linemen next to him. And like I said previously, spending big at right guard is something that I'm always going to be at least a little bit wary of. But what you are getting with Trey Smith is someone who is extremely reliable and very good, maybe even great at what he does. And still young, just going to turn 26 before the season starts. So he's going to completely take away all stress you might have about that right guard spot for however long you have him. And there is a lot of value in that, even if there are other positions where it might be even more valuable. PFF has liked him pretty much his whole career. Last year, they gave him a great mark, 78.8. They thought he was one of the best players at the right guard position last year. And Spotrac says 4 years, 78.8 million, which is certainly a little uncomfortable to give to any interior offensive lineman, especially a right guard. But this guy is probably worth it because he brings together all the traits you could want: reliability and high quality of play and youth. So he is my number 1, and that'll do it for this video. See you guys soon. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think.